It's Marsha Boyette, and we're doing our project on social support. We have Robert Bush, Arlise Clark, and Ben Coffey. My part was background and significance. First, we have background. They started looking at background in the 1970s and the 1980s. Nursing moved at that time from debating the direct effect of social support on health by incorporating the concept of social support into existing and new theatrical formulations. The significance of social support in the healthcare setting is to provide a means of positively affecting health, develop a sense of social integration and emotional concern, receive direct aid or services. Social networks exist to join individuals or groups together in relationship that serve as channels through which physical, instrumental, material, or emotional resources are provided. Social support stems from relationships between persons, organizations, and communities. The close ties that one develops through a social network provide the individual with healthier outcomes, improved coping mechanisms, and increased life satisfaction. Meaning in published works. We looked at a couple of different articles on social support. The first one we looked at was Willingham and Pike's study. It was conducted to enhance institutionalized older adults' social support networks and loneliness. Trained technicians administered tests on one-on-one interviews in a 3-month interval. The participants were either exposed to the cognitive enhancement, including social support appraisals, social support behaviors, and the UCLA loneliness scale, are placed in a control group. The results of the study indicated that older adults benefited from group-based programs designed to facilitate social support and improve cognitive abilities. The next one we looked at was Maureen Fry's study of social support and health. This is the first one that we had seen that talked about conceptual frameworks of nursing, which included Imogene M. King's conceptual framework. This study described the development of empirical testing or theatrical formulation of social support, family, health, and child health. This involved 103 families with children that were diagnosed with diabetes. The findings that Fry provided empirical support for the theatrical formulation of social support and health in the families with children diagnosed with diabetes, therefore indirectly validated King's conceptual framework of nursing. The next study we have is Pascagoula-Ziergen's study in 2010. This was conducted on functions of loneliness, social support, health behaviors, and stress associated with poor health. A survey of 265 adults, ages 19 to 85, were conducted measuring levels of social support, loneliness, stress, and health behaviors. The first aim of the study was to test associations between loneliness and social support versus social integration. The second aim of the study was to test elements of loneliness and health. Findings of the study were that the loneliness were associated with lower social support, but not with the amount of social integration, and that loneliness mediated the association between social support and improved health. And next we have Purpose by Arlise Clark.
Hello, my name is Arlise Clark, and my section of the social support concept analysis includes the purpose and also the definitions and defining attributes. Concept analysis is conducted for the purpose of examining the structure and the function of a concept. In the process of concept analysis, the basic elements of a concept are studied in order to distinguish a specific concept from similar ideas. When a concept is broken down to simpler elements, it's easier to determine its internal structure. In nursing theory, concept analysis is used to share empiric knowledge and enable scientific competence in practice. As a result, specific meanings of a concept are communicated and understood across the board in the practice of nursing. The purpose of concept analysis is to present elements of social support in order to give an explanation of how it influences health. Definitions and attributes. Social support is defined as aid and assistance exchanged through social relationships and interpersonal transactions and includes 4 distinct types of support. 1. Emotional support, including expressions of empathy, trusting, and caring. 2. Instrumental support, including tangible aid or service. 3. Appraisal support, including information that is used for self-evaluation. And 4. Informational support, including advice, suggestions, and information. Here, social support is viewed as an important factor in the promotion of healthy lifestyle changes. Social support is discussed in the context of community-based social networks designed to target underserved populations and influence behaviors that positively affect health. The attributes related to social support in community-based social social networks include the utilization of naturally occurring social networks, role models, and community resources. The assistance and protection given to others is a broad definition of social support. Financial aid and emotional help are examples of assistance. Shielding people from the adverse effects of stress are also examples of protection and social support. In addition, social support is reciprocal when an exchange of resources might be expected amongst members of a social network. The theoretical sources of social support are: 1. Social comparison theory, where self-concept is developed by comparing oneself to another. 2. Social exchange theory. This is human behavior viewed as an exchange of mutually rewarding activities contingent upon return favors. 3. Social competence, ability to effectively interact with the environment, which is essential for the formation and maintenance of relationships. Frey theoretically defines social support as exchanging positive effect, developing a sense of social integration, emotional concern, and receiving direct aid or services between 2 or more people. Social support is also outlined as a concept in Mercer's middle range theory, maternal role attainment, becoming a mother. Mercer and colleagues define social support as the amount of help actually received, satisfaction with that help, and the persons or the network providing that help. Examples of attributes of social support include feeling loved, helping one to help his or herself, direct help, and revealing how one is performing in a specific role in order to enable self-evaluation. Social support is demonstrated through various acts of genuine caring that positively affect an individual's well-being. In literature, social support is consistently defined as assistance provided to an individual allowing access to various resources necessary to alleviate stress and thus promote health. Any of the 4 attributes of social support must be present for the concept to exist. Members of an individual's social network may consist of family, friends, and people in the community. The idea that social support may have negative effects seldom occurs. However, based upon the definitions listed, the results are typically positive.
Hello, I'm Robert Bush. I'll be covering cases model-related, borderline, contrary, and invented. Case studies help to illustrate a concept. The different cases that we covered, as I said, were the model-related, borderline, contrary, and invented. Each case has its own characteristics that make itself unique. In the first case study, I'm doing a model case. It describes a situation, experience, or event that satisfies the meaning of the concept. And also, it is one that demonstrates all characteristics of a concept that is absolutely an instance of the concept. In our case, it is social support. The final example of a model case is, I had Miss M as a 92-year-old with a recent hospitalization with extensive rehabilitation due to cardiovascular accident. Miss M previously lived alone and was active member of multiple organizations and was referred to as a mother by church. During her extensive stay in the hospital, she had many family and visitors that provided support and well-being. Upon the anticipated discharge, family members all came in. They took into account medication training, discharge planning, and had home health situated. Her sons and family members of the church went to her house and built a wheelchair ramp, and also made modifications to her home to allow access to all rooms of her house with use of a walker and a wheelchair for safety. Her son moved from another state to come back to be closer to her to give support, and members of her church, upon getting home, brought her food each day until she got back on her feet. A contrary case represents the opposite of what a model case is. It's totally different. In my situation, we've got Mr. X is a man. He lived alone in an old trailer house in a very rural area. He was brought to the hospital after being found just lying on the road with multiple abrasions and altered level of consciousness. And after several days, he awoke and he revealed that he has no family members or friends around to be able to discharge to. Social services were notified, and they looked at his living conditions, which were very poor. Mr. X reports that after his wife and kids had died 10 years prior in an accident, he just gave up and lived off the bottom, and has withdrawn from people and has no friends he could rely on. So you can see that he has absolutely no social support or people to help him. A related case represents a case or concept that is different to, but similar to the main concept that we're covering. A related case may share some criteria of the concept, but do not have all the attributes that define the concept. The following example is a related case. Mr. T is a 57-year-old, recent hospitalization due to a heart attack. After heart surgery, he is discharged with his family and set up home health services for nursing care and physical therapy. During his hospital stay, he had many visitors and he had support. Family members took interest in his discharge planning and everything was set. But upon visit, a home health nurse, a few days later, noted that he was found home alone with a soiled dressing, and the prescription pad had not been filled from the discharge of the hospital. Mr. T states that he has not taken his medication or has heard or seen from his daughter since discharge. He reports that a neighbor came to check on him each day and brought him some food. This just shows that he had a little support going, but then when it came around, he just had a friend in need. A borderline case uses concept in a different application or context. By doing so, the context of the main concept has changed. An example of a borderline case is Miss S had a drug history. She was ordered by the court to undergo treatment for a drug addiction. She spent 3 months in a drug rehabilitation program and then lived the last 2 weeks in a halfway house. She ultimately got a place to live and a part-time job a couple hours away from her previous home. She scheduled time with friends for various activities such as shopping, meals, and church activities. There's social support, but not in the same being as our model case. And in many cases, cases which is completely beyond one experience. Concept used is a fabricated way. An example that I made was Sassy Susie's, a toy doll, was brought home by a little girl from a local thrift store. The doll had holes with stuffing torn out, the eyes broken off, her tangled hair, and crayon markings of her face and arms. She was brought home and the little girl replaced the stuffing, mended her holes, brushed the tangles out of her hair, and moved the markings from her body. She was placed around a small children's table with the other dolls and played fixed array of snacks and toys and teacups. The doll had a bed to sleep inside, right inside the girl's twin bed. Susie the doll now had friends to spend her days with, food to share, and a warm place to sleep, and love provided by her new owner. Antecedents and anecdotes. Antecedents are events that lead to occurrence before the concept. Antecedents of social support may include social network, social connections, and social climate. Social network is described as the instrument by which social support is provided. The qualities of the environment promote helpfulness and protection, in which social environment behaviors of social support cannot take place. Consequences are defined as events that occur as a result of the concept. Consequences of social support include healthy coping skills, decreased anxiety and depression, and increased psychological well-being. These outcomes can be classified as positive health states do that adequate social support.
Hi, my name is Ben Coffey, and I'm going to be talking about empirical indicators, operational definition, and doing the summary. Currently, only 3 instruments have been developed for social support measurement that are considered reliable. These are the interpersonal relationship inventory, personal resources questionnaire, and the Norbeck social support questionnaire. Both the PRQ and the NSSQ measure 3 out of the 4 defining attributes of social support, which are emotional, instrumental, and appraisal support. The IPRI measures all 4 attributes, but the subscales are support, reciprocity, and conflict. The NSSQ, in addition to measuring 3 of the 4 defining attributes, also measures an individual's social network as a precursor of social support. Areas that are measured include the size of a person's social network or number of contacts, the stability of the relationships as well as the length of those relationships, and how often they interact with their contacts. These are all included in the measurement of their social network. As an operational definition, social support is a group of individuals who are connected through various levels of relationships and serve as a means of physical or emotional support. For the purpose of this paper, the IPRI, PRQ, and NSSQ are identified as reliable tools to measure the strength of social support networks. Social support is comprised of 4 defining attributes: emotional, instrumental, appraisal, and informational. Social network, social embeddedness, and social climate are recognized as antecedents to social support. The defining attributes can be measured using the IPRI, PRQ, or the NSSQ, which have been identified as the most reliable tools that have been developed for measuring social support. The NSSQ and the PRQ only measure 3 out of the 4 attributes, while the IPRI indirectly measures all 4, however it uses a different subscale. The NSSQ is the only tool that measures social network as a precursor to social support. A strong social support network plays a large role in a person's psychological well-being by giving them a sense of control over their situation. It also lends to a decreased sense of anxiety and depression, an increased sense of self-worth, better coping behaviors, and better health practices. Interventions that can improve social support networks could potentially reduce healthcare costs by reducing periods of illness and speeding recovery times, thereby reducing hospital stays. Thank you very much.